This Mathcast is created by Katie Aldrich. The intended audience is 6th grade, and the content or learning objective is students show the area formula for the region bounded by a parallelogram by composing it into rectangles. First, let's go over some vocabulary. A parallelogram is a four-sided plane with opposite sides parallel. The formula for the area of a parallelogram is base times height. The B stands for base and the H stands for height. And the Pythagorean theorem is in a right triangle, the square of the length of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the lengths of the other two sides. When you write it, it is shown as a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The a and the b represent the two sides, and the c represents the hypotenuse. The formula for the area of a parallelogram is base times height. The b represents the base, and in this figure, the base is 6 centimeters. So now we will write area equals 6, because 6 is the base, and the height of this parallelogram is 4 centimeters. So now we're going to write 4 for the height. The parentheses around the 6 and the 4 represent multiplication. So now we will multiply 6 times 4. And 6 times 4 is 24. So the area of this parallelogram is 24 centimeters squared. Let's use another example and find the area of this parallelogram using the same formula, area equals base times height. In this parallelogram, the base of the parallelogram is 25 centimeters. So when rewriting this formula, we're going to say area equals 25, because that's the base of the parallelogram, times 8, because 8 is the height of the parallelogram. And again, the parentheses mean multiplication, so we're going to multiply 25 times 8. And 25 times 8 equals 200. So the area of this parallelogram is 200 centimeters squared, or 200 squared centimeters. Here is another example. Again, the formula to find the area of a parallelogram is base times height. With this parallelogram, the base is 5 centimeters. So when we rewrite the formula, we're going to say area equals 5 in parentheses, because 5 is the base, and the height of this parallelogram is 35 centimeters. So we're going to put 35 in the other set of parentheses. And again, the parentheses means multiplication. 5 times 35 is 175, so the area of this parallelogram is 175 centimeters squared. The reason that we use the 5 centimeters for the base of the parallelogram instead of the 15 is because the 5 represents this, the base of the parallelogram. We don't want to use the distance right here. And the reason we use 35 for the height instead of 42 is because if we were to make this triangle like we did here, the 42 would represent the hypotenuse, and we need to find the height, which is 35. So that's why we use 5 times 35. Here is an example of how to find the area of a parallelogram with fractions. The formula is still going to be the same, with area equals base times height. The base of this parallelogram is 2.5 inches. So when we are rewriting this formula, we're going to say area equals, and in parentheses, 2.5, because it's the base, and the height is going to be 5.25 inches. So in the other set of parentheses, we're going to put 5.25. Again, the reason that our height of this parallelogram is not 7 2/3 is because that would be the hypotenuse of the triangle, and 5.25 is the height of the parallelogram. So now we're going to multiply 2.5 inches by 5.25 inches. So when we multiply 2.5 inches by 5.25 inches, we get 13 1/8 inches. So the area of this parallelogram is 13 1/8 inches squared.